must not go back to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
That help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it. It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. We have all three ladies back again.
Hello, girl power.
Yes, they will all. They will all come at me later on various points. So stay tuned.
No, we won't, Dan.
Exactly my point. It begins. All right. Well played, Molly. Well played. All right. So the title of the chapter is Flourish and Blotts, which obviously kind of sends us to Diagon Alley. But we start off at the Burrow again. They get their school letters with all of the books that they need, most of which are from a certain Professor Lockhart.
Which is such a college scam.
Yeah.
You know, like, here, buy the books of my class that you'll open once, if that.
It immediately stresses out Mollie, figuring out how they're gonna, and his books aren't cheap, which, again, to your scam point, it's like the most expensive books.
Thinking about why didn't they just buy one set and make all of them share?
It could, because it's all for all the levels, right?
Yeah,
They could do that.
That's what I would have done if I were Molly.
Do you think you can multiply books so you can food? You know?
Oh.
Could you just, like, buy one set? And
I mean, you
like,
should be able to.
You
Because that
You would
definitely
think,
You would
right?
think.
Unless it's, like, getting into copyright.
Wizard copyright is awesome. Some wizard lawyer trying to get you on copyright infringement.
Oh, you get a holler from
Right. Oh, that'd be awesome. I kind of want that.
Let's just talk a little bit more about Arthur. And I was just thinking how much fun it would be to talk to Arthur Weasley. Because he would make you feel like the coolest, smartest person ever just by explaining how, like, a toaster works. You're just like, yes, tell me more.
I think he would actually make me feel stupid because I think he would want to know, like, really intricate.
The mechanical.
Like, yeah, and I'd be like, I don't know, I push
Electricity?
a button and my toast pops up.
Yeah, it's. I love Arthur's curiosity on everything, making like Harry the center of attention on like, but in a different way than he's usually the center of attention.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Grangers later, who he probably scares a little bit. Like,
That was my thinking while I was just rereading this. Yeah, like I don't.
why does he want to know how a lamp works? I don't know, but whatever.
Yeah, like when they were exchanging money, I just got in my head like, oh, that's cute.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, I feel like I would have almost found him condescending until
Right.
I knew him better. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd be so easy to buy Christmas presents for them. You know, like, here, have an electrical cord, extension cord.
Here's a
Merry
lamp.
Christmas!
Right?
It's just what I wanted.
So Arthur brought up a comment when they all get their letters, and obviously Harry gets his. And he's like, Dumbledore doesn't miss a trick.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get their letters, I don't think Dumbledore is literally sitting there like writing one letter and then just copying
I mean,
them
they're
off.
signed by Minerva, not Dumbledore.
Yeah. So I guess broader question. Who's responsible for knowing Harry has now switched locations? Is that like a Hogwarts magic? Is that owl specific magic where owls are like a built-in GPS? And if so, couldn't you use owls to then find anybody that you wanted to?
Do the owls address the envelopes? If that is the case.
Like little claw.
On the rock.
Maybe the owls were just the really cheeky ones from like the very beginning. I like
It's
it.
like a location spell or something. Or if he has a clock similar to the Weasley's
It's a
clock.
big clock.
It'd be a very big clock.
Yeah.
You have to replace the names of the students every year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. It just caught me as like, how does that actually happen? I get that obviously magic's involved, but who puts that magic on it? Where's that responsible
Well,
from?
and it can't really be related to the trace because, or like underage magic, because eventually all students reach a certain age where they can do magic. So it can't be anything related to that.
But it just feels like if you're sending an owl from one wizard to another, you don't necessarily know where that wizard is going to be, yet the owl gets there somehow.
Perhaps, and I'm not going to mention the name because of spoilers, but perhaps someone has alerted Dumbledore because they've seen the Dursley's house and realize not there.
Maybe. That could be.
Sure.
I don't know. It was just a thought that I had. It was just like, how does that work? And if so, what are the implications going down the chain? But anyway, so me being me, I also noticed, going back to Lockhart's book list, he really likes alliteration in every single one of his books.
It actually annoys me.
Oh,
sorry.
Mollie, you're the tiebreaker. What do you got?
Oh, I
Hate it or love it?
I can't stand it.
Okay. It just amuses me. I just find it.
Maybe it's just because it's him. Like, oh god, that man.
I could see him like sitting there thinking of titles and just be like, I'm so clever.
Yes,
Write
exactly.
that one down.
That's fair. Yeah, so, man, we can go all the way back to how we started this. We get...
Blue powder.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Because it is a fun way to transport yourself. Does it have to be a fireplace? Or could it be any fire? You know, because I think it's like you travel by fire, but does it have to be a fire in a fireplace? Could you go to like just a random campfire?
I think
and just
because
pop
you
up?
have to attach it to the network. So I think it does
Maybe
have to
like
be a
that.
fireplace.
Interesting. Also, do you come out of it like reeking like a fire?
Probably.
That was my thought. I was like, oh, you get the fire pit smell all over you.
Your eyes are just burning.
I do love how Ron apologizes to Harry for not explaining first how to use the flu powder.
They tried.
Because I would
Not
so be the
well.
person be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Awkward.
But I'm gonna
I feel
keep
bad.
trying.
Yeah, I would like try it, just be like, okay, is this how you do it? And I'd feel really awkward. And Ron's just like, he recognizes that immediately and apologizes as opposed to being like, you don't know how to work it.
I was about to
Yeah.
say another form of transportation that would have been a spoiler. But could you think there's no possible way that they can go together? Like, there's no way. I'm just going to save it for the spoilers.
Yeah, because I keep wanting to bring up the same thing.
Yeah,
That's why I'm being quiet.
Yep. I'm
So
just going to say.
pause. No, we're coming back to flu powder.
All right.
So we go in the fire, we come out on the other side in Nocturne Alley. Which I love.
I got to say, going to Orlando, because
Nocturne Alley is so cool.
it's cool. It's actually really, really cool.
They
I
have
really
so
enjoy kind of
many
looking around the
skulls.
shelves and stuff.
They have so many skulls. I'm really tempted every single time I'm there to buy more.
It's very much your morbid sense of humor. Yes.
Whenever I think of Nocturne Alley, I just think of like that not medieval, like in Les Mis or something. Like all these like people
Gritty
just
back alleys.
yeah, like a gritty.
Like all those like made up, what did they used to call it? And like
Yeah.
so it's like elixirs,
Right.
That were just like basically gonna kill you,
right. And then a little bit too of like that's like the drug dealer area of the wizarding world.
Literal black market.
I'm like, come here, kid.
So, especially with like Arthur doing all of his raids, how do you not raid that alley like every day?
Right.
You'd have to, right? Like that's kind of what
Well,
they
it
generally.
must be illegal because it's not like people. I mean, even Hagrid is there buying stuff.
Maybe like instead of money laundering, it's like magic laundering. Like where the dark stuff
I mean,
goes.
kinda, yeah. So it's yes, there's a lot of legal stuff like what
Right.
Hagrid's there for, but I got to imagine there's some stuff that really skirts a very fine line of like legal or not.
Maybe it's
Well-
more faux pas just because it's dark magic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
and like, does Arthur need like a magical warrant to go and do these raids? Like, maybe he can't get into the Borgin and Bergs to do a raid.
Sure, he probably does have to
Like-
have some cause for.
I mean, Morgan himself even is kind of like recognizes that Lucius has more than he's actually saying.
Right.
I love how he drops that oily manner the minute he leaves her. I'm like, yeah, sir.
Well, the idea.
Sure, you're selling me all your stuff.
Yeah, that idea of. Well, I mean, just going back and saying, Lucius is, I think, the first person we hear refer to Voldy as the Dark Lord, versus he must not be named or you know who.
No, Snape calls him. I'm sorry, I just called him the Snape. Sorry.
He is
Snape
the
calls
Snape.
him the Dark Lord.
Okay. I just took note of it as like not many people are openly calling
But
him
yes,
that.
you're right. That, yeah.
And that's an indication maybe of
Yeah.
where your loyalties may or may not lie. So I don't know. I just took note of that, and I'm sure he's guessed that and heard rumors of, I know what you kind of have done. I've heard of what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think, doesn't Mr. Weasley even mention it somewhere in this chapter about, like, you know, or maybe Ron mentions it that his dad is convinced that Lucius was in Voldemort's inner circle.
I think they said that in the last chapter,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
When they were in the
okay.
car. Yeah, because Fred and George were both like, oh, we've heard Dad mention his name a few times.
Which, like, don't you ever wonder what went down between Lucius and Arthur that they've got
They're constantly talking
such
about
an
each other.
intense rivalry? I mean, that's like, I feel like there's some history there that we don't know about, and I wish I
I feel like
was privy to
Arthur
it.
has been trying to raid Lucius for forever and hasn't gotten that cause that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And Lucius is well aware that
Yeah.
he's trying to come after him.
Well, I mean, that's why he's here.
On the simplest level.
In Nocturnality.
I'm sure it gets even deeper and levels deeper, but at least that.
Yeah.
Because doesn't Arthur say at some point, like, oh, I'd love to take him down?
Yes. Yeah.
And Molly was like, don't bite off more than you can chew.
And then he's just immediately like, you think I can't take care of Lucius Malfoy? I'm like, yes, you can, honey.
Speaking of talking about other people, I do love the plot device of the minute Harry can hear Draco is once again complaining about him.
Yeah.
Which he's done many times this summer, apparently.
It's totally a plot device, but also you get the vibe that he has not shut up about those three individuals the entire summer, and Lucius just like, can you just not say their name one time? Just one day.
Well, then he guilts him. He's like, oh, that one girl that from, Hermione, she scored
Oh, yeah,
better than
he's-
you.
He's savage.
Yeah, let's have some wizarding racism here. Their blood status.
And then just points out in every way that they're actually better than Draco. Like straight to his face. Like,
I was like,
demeaning
tell
your child.
Draco not to
Well,
touch anything. I would think if he's 12 years old and he's lived in the wizarding world his entire life, you would know by now, don't touch things, especially in Nocturnality.
It's an interesting dynamic because it's like he's hard on his son, but at the same time too, it also sounds like he spoils him. So it's kind of
Yeah.
a very interesting dynamic to see played out.
He bullies him.
I
Yeah.
wonder if
Well,
it's
that
like,
explains so much about Draco, too.
I wonder if it's like specifically spoiling his son, or if it's trying to just keep up appearances for the
Maintain that
family's sake.
status.
That's true.
Yeah, because he won't buy him all these things that Draco's finding in Morgan and Burns.
Right.
But they're about to go buy a racing broom,
Right.
Yeah.
which, like you said, that's the type of status
Like,
Lucius is wanting to present, not all these dark things
Exactly.
he's trying to hide.
right.
Mhm.
So and Draco probably takes it as, oh, I get whatever I want,
Right.
but I don't know if that's his specific intention.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to Elizabeth's previous point, communication. Maybe father and son just talked a little more.
Oh, are you saying they don't have the most father-son?
I want to make so many cursed child references right now to prove how they don't have a good father-son relationship, but I'll refrain.
Wizarding therapy. That's what they need.
That would be an interesting family therapy session. Of just, I could see Lucius just sitting there in a very angry silence, and Draco just going off mainly about school. Again, I can see him talking nothing but Ron, Harry, and Hermione And then Crabbe and Goyle are just like non-existent. Like Lucius probably like, who are those two guys?
Yeah.
You don't talk about them ever. But anyway.
Mollie is beside herself because, she almost lost not only somebody else's child, but Harry Potter. That's intense.
I don't think Mollie even cares that it's Harry Potter. I think she's just it's like her son's best friend.
Right. Right. And then the other thing I had was so entering to Diagon Alley, Muggles have to go through the Leaky Cauldron, right? Because they can't use a magical way to get into it. So if your wizarding child has to open the wall with the wand, why does that not count as magic?
Well, who's to say it's the wizarding child opening? Maybe they have to make Tom go out and do it for them.
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe.
Or does it count as magic, but you're near the Leaky Cauldron in Diagon Alley where it just gets muddled in all the magic going on around you.
Oh,
It just gets lost in the shuffle.
I just remember too when they were talking about the Leaky Cauldron in the very first book, how Harry said all the Muggles just seem to fly right by it.
Mm-hmm.
So can you see it now when you have a child who is a wizard?
I would assume. Well, I guess they didn't with Harry, but he's not Muggle-born per se. So it's like, do they write literal instructions on hey, you need to go to this specific
spot?
spot?
You get in.
Yeah, kind of more. It's really hard to do this non-spoiler
I think
stuff.
Hogwarts has help for Muggles to find.
I feel
besides written
I
instructions.
guess so.
Yeah.
And the same with going to get wizarding money, which I feel like it is kind of behind Muggle money. Because, you can get your credit card or your debit card, and here it's you have to specifically pick up.
At least it's actually backed by a real thing of worth as opposed to money.
Yeah. I would not estimate very well how much I'm supposed to pick up for a year's worth of living.
Yeah, that'd be
I
a
agree
really.
with you on that. Yeah.
So do they have goblins at Gringotts that help specific bankers that can help you with your
Financial
conversion
planners.
rates?
Oh, yeah.
Creepiest assistant ever.
So as this conversation is going on, I'm looking up the Harry Potter lexicon, and it says, for the sake of this converter, 1 galleon would equal 5 pounds.
Okay.
So, yeah, you can go with that as what you will. I guess really isn't that much. Because galleons...
Since considering it's gold.
Yeah, top of the line.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be a pretty hefty coin.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I'd need that goblin financial planner.
Actually, I'd probably just be Harry, just taking ample.
Figure it out. Figure it out.
Hope this works.
Let's
Let's
go
go buy some ice
bad
cream.
for him.
Right.
I felt so bad, just obviously it's not that he put the money there, so it's something he should be embarrassed about, but just seeing all his money stacked up and then
It's gotta be hard seeing the Weasleys vault.
emptied.
Yeah.
Completely empty.
That's gonna be
Literally
hard.
feeling into the corners, looking for spare coins. Oh my gosh.
Do we get a number of what their vault is? How far down it goes, since they're a pure blood family?
They just tell us how much Mollie puts into her bag. Yeah, they don't tell
Okay.
us a number.
It'd be interesting to know.
It would be,
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be above Harry's because they go to the Weasleys first and then
True.
they go to Harry's.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So,
Maybe they have the more treasure further down.
Yeah.
I know, the old
Well,
wizarding
and
families
Harry
is lower.
Is there a regular
but-
bank where it's
vault
you need to
would
keep a
also-
certain deposit, a certain down payment in the bank, otherwise they you out.
Well,
Move it
think about Harry's vault, though. That's also going to be a really prestigious vault because of the Potters. I'm going to assume Lily just put her gold into James's vault
Yeah.
at Gringotts
Yeah.
when they got married. So
Yeah.
yeah.
that
Potters
makes
would
sense.
probably be pretty far down.
We haven't even gotten to
Honestly.
Flourish and Blotts yet. I love the name of the bookstore. I think it's fantastic.
It's a great name for a bookstore. It really is.
I love how all of the women are just fawning over Lockhart, and he's fawning over himself, and Harry to the tiniest degree that he's capable of fawning over another individual, and how he gets the publicity from the fight. That's what was it. Fred or George, I forget which one said, you hear him talking about it. He was excited about that fight. And I love how Harry gives Ginny his free set of books, as opposed to like Ron or any of the other ones. It's kind of sweet.
Oh, just specifically Ginny.
Yeah.
It is cute. I feel like that might have been a moment like she was the first one he found and he could just dump his books in her cauldron.
Well, it's probably the only new thing
Also
she will
is-
get all year with all of her stuff. Everything else is
Yeah,
secondhand,
it
and
is.
here's these brand new textbooks.
Ginny's holding the cauldron, right?
She's standing next to the cauldron.
Oh, standing next to it. Because I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking she's holding it, and they're just piling books on books on books in this cauldron. I'm like, just like a weight training for Ginny, or like, what's going on? Anyway.
We should go back to Ginny's books and the spoiler section, though.
Yes.
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 All right. Well, I think on that, we should just get to the spoiler section. So we'll end it here, and we'll be right back.
Amazing! This is just like magic!
We're back from break, and one of the things I wanted to kind of double back on that I was trying not to say in the non-spoilers was different things with apparition, which is what I was alluding to with Dumbledore in the first part here.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it. It's just not by name.
Yeah, so side-along apparition is a thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, side-along flute powder has been a thing as well in the 7th book when all 3 of them go into a flute powder thing. Right? That was a flute powder.
No, that
Right.
was not necessarily flue powder. That was them going back up. Well, I don't remember for
What
the
part
movies,
of the book are you?
but in the book, when they're escaping from the Ministry,
In
and
7,
they're
in Deathly
closing
Hallows.
off all the entrances from
How-
the Ministry.
all the
How do they
crates.
do it in the movie?
They just jump in
They
one and
dive
fly
into
up.
the fireplace. And I mean, that's what they do in the books, too. But they come out up in the alley.
Right.
So, like, you need a coin to go down the toilet to get into the Ministry. I'm assuming to make sure they
Please
keep out.
continue. I love
Got you. You know, maybe like Myrtle, you get stuck in the U-bend. No, you need the coin to go down the toilet to get into the Ministry, and you probably need the coin to make sure, you know, like, random people aren't, I don't know, maybe some poor
Yeah.
muggle
You
falls
understand-
into the toilet and pops up, hello!
That's
But
a
to
really
get
convenient
out,
public toilet.
Like, you already need it in the Ministry. They don't normally care if you're getting out, so I don't think you need anything specific to go back up and out into the toilet. Yeah.
I
I'm
love
just
that I
gonna keep
forced
saying
you to.
toilet.
I was going to
Yeah.
say. Okay, but
Part
seriously
of me
though.
pictures the fire as just like in a constant magical state of just being able to leave.
Like in and out, like
Yeah.
Well,
you
at
know?
Ministry, yeah, probably. Because
Like,
so many
kind
people
of
are
like
using it.
the fire that Snape made in the first book.
it's like a never-ending flue powder
Yeah.
fire.
That's kind of how I picture it.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is because they clearly weren't carrying flue powder on them. They're like, stop, throw, and then
But they weren't
Yeah.
using flue powder. They were using this other magical form because they didn't need flue powder to get in either. So I think the toilet is different from the fireplaces that use flue powder at the Ministry.
Okay, maybe that's the case.
So you were going to talk about apparition. I was thinking about port keys. How convenient it would be for the whole Weasley family to just have the one single port key, touch your
Right.
finger, and then
Yeah.
you're there.
There, yeah.
You know?
So, do you think side-along flue powder is a thing? Can 2 people go at once then?
Maybe if you have a big enough fireplace.
I mean, when
But I
they try to
think
go
the
to the
average
Dursleys'
fire-
house, they go one by one.
Yeah.
And that's why there's such backup, because they don't realize, like, you can't go back and tell the other, don't come.
Yeah.
In the 4th book.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing with considering all the other forms, like you said, port key, apparition. It's just an interesting kind of transportation.
Maybe people just assume your fireplace is too small for one person.
Yeah.
Well, and even, I think in the break, Mollie brought up the, like, just talking face-to-face using flue powder.
Yeah.
And it's only ever, like, the person who initiates a conversation is only ever one face showing up in the fireplace.
Yeah.
Like, Harry talks to Remus and Lupin at the same time, but that's because they're both in the kitchen at Grimmauld Place.
So, is that only because the person that's talking to you is in the fireplace? So then,
Right.
to Sirius, your face would then be in the fire?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous.
So true.
It's a lot of J.K. Rowling making up
transportation
as she goes to fit the
Yeah.
plot needed.
Yes.
What else did you ladies yell at me at over the break?
We
That's
kind
something
of were
else.
arguing about a particular cabinet in
Oh, we
Morgan
were.
Books.
True, we were.
Because there are lots of objects in there that are spoilers. There's the Hand of Glory,
Mhm.
which we know Malfoy eventually gets and has and leads the Death Eaters into Hogwarts. And there's that necklace that Katie Bell gets cursed with.
That's my favorite drop in there. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That's the one that I'm
Like,
like,
it's cursed with
oh,
it,
wow.
17 muggles or something like that. He just, like, snorts. Which I love. And then the cabinet, which Harry goes in, but he doesn't close the door. And we know the other vanishing cabinet is in Hogwarts. So I can just imagine, like, if he had closed the door and he just randomly popped up in Hogwarts, it was like, well, now I'm here really early. And then he'd be really lost from the Weasleys. But you guys were arguing, is it actually the vanishing closet or not?
I still am questioning if it's the exact cabinet. I think I'm the only one that thinks it might not be the actual
I mean,
vanishing
with
cabinet.
her repeated use of things from earlier in the books.
Well, I think
It's-
this might be one that she was like, oh yeah, when I dropped these other two spoiler things that I had planned,
I could just utilize
I
that.
could also use this cabinet that Harry hid in. I don't know that
So you're thinking this is just a go back and pull it thing, not a planned thing?
Because she also, eventually, when we find out the real vanishing cabinet, the other person, like, heard whispering. And I get your point that it wasn't completely closed. But I don't know.
Well, didn't he hear whispering because it was, like, broken, so he was halfway between Hogwarts and halfway between Borgin and Burks. So he could, like, hear people on both sides. Because he was, like, in a limbo state, kind of a thing. I feel like.
How did they get him out of that? Now
They
that
said
you're
he
saying
apparated
it that
his way out.
Really?
Yeah, he said he hadn't, like, passed the test yet, but he just tried and got his way out.
Did he splinch himself?
I don't think so. Malfoy said that all the Slytherins were, like, very impressed by his story, but he realized what it really meant. And thus the plan came into being.
You're saying Draco's smarter than Crabbe and Goyle?
Well, they weren't in the cabinet. It was the one that, it was an older
It's either
Slytherin.
Warrington or Montague. I can't
think it was
remember which
Montague.
one.
I think it was
I think
Montague.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then his parents came to get him, and Hermione was like, should we tell them? They're like, no. More problems for Umbridge.
Oh, Umbridge.
It's going to be a very interesting
I can't wait till we
episode when we
get
get there.
Oh my gosh. The biggest spoiler is the diary.
Yeah, it's kind of a big thing, huh?
Just
Right.
a bit. Kind of sets up the whole book.
Imagine how smooth he must have been. Like, was he like
He's a
practicing
pickpocket.
that?
He had to,
Yeah.
right?
When did we find out that Lucius Malfoy is a pickpocket?
Right then, that moment,
Okay.
when he just slyly drops an extra
Like,
book. in.
wow, okay.
Did you not know this whole
Right.
background? It's a side book on Potter.
You know, he
No.
sure talks a big game for telling Malfoy to not be a thief,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I guess he's not really
So true.
stealing. He's giving.
He's playing
Right. I want to know though, like, was he just carrying that diary around because he hoped to run into the Weasleys, or was it because I mean, like, he wasn't going to sell it to Borgin.
My question is, if maybe he wasn't going to sell to Borgin, I agree with you there. But if Borgin was able to take a look at it, not knowing it was necessarily Voldy's, but do you think he would have recognized how dark
The magic was?
Yeah. I mean, he is technically an expert in his field of dark magic. Do you think he would have been like,
I don't think he would
There's
necessarily
some-
look at it and think Horcrux. You know.
I mean, it's not a withered hand.
Well,
it's
yeah,
like-
but I mean, it looks so innocent.
Right.
I was going to say, is there really a way of knowing until you try writing in it?
Magic leaves a trace, right?
Is he a good enough wizard to see the trick?
Like I said, he's an expert in his field. I would imagine he'd recognize dark magic when he sees it.
Was it this Borgin that worked with Voldemort when he was young, or was it?
I think so.
Yeah. So maybe he could see, like, recognize
fingerprints
Tom
of-
Riddle's
maybe.
magic, but I don't know. I really don't know. I just thought it was interesting that he's, like, carrying it around, because obviously it's a valuable object, and if he was thinking like, okay, I'm gonna plant this on anybody or specifically the Weasleys.
I
just to
think
get
he
revenge.
specifically wanted to get the Weasleys. I always kind of imagined it as he was kind of carrying it around in case he ever ran into Arthur at the Ministry.
I can see that.
And that was going to be his plan, was to try and plant it on Arthur, assuming then somehow it would make it to Hogwarts. Maybe he was just looking for an unsuspecting Hogwarts student. Because that would be the key to get it back to Hogwarts.
Jimmy's the perfect one to plant
Or
it on
maybe
then.
Lucius is writing it himself out of his deepest, darkest.
And Riddle's instructing him on what to do. That's an
Yeah.
interesting
Give
take.
it to a
I
girl.
that.
That's a very interesting take that I never thought.
I
like
a
that.
lot.
Imagine like if he
That
had
makes a
given
lot more
it to
sense.
any of the other Weasley kids. Like I don't think maybe Percy would write in his diary and it would be like, I want to be Howard would be like, oh my god, any other child.
Can you please pass this on to another
Give it to somebody else.
student?
But I can't see like Frederick
I
George
don't
writing in
know.
a diary.
I mean, Riddle was a head boy. Couldn't you kind of see him, very easily manipulating
Yeah.
Percy? Yeah.
Yeah. This is how you gain power.
There is only power.
Oh, I don't know if I want to take that segue or not.
I can't see Ron writing in a diary kind of
No.
a thing. So Ginny is
Fred
the
or
perfect one
George
to do
either.
So
that.
going back to Molly's point from just a second ago about potentially Lucius writing in it and Tom Riddle instructing, which I think is a fascinating idea.
Yeah.
I can see that happening.
But we've talked on the podcast before about how much Lucius knows about what that diary is.
Yeah.
Does he know? He obviously knows it belonged to Voldy.
And he was told to keep it safe.
Yes. But beyond that, does he know it's a part of his soul or not?
He
No,
knows.
I
he
don't
does
think
not
so.
know.
know
He
that.
knows it will open up the Chamber of Secrets,
That's what
and
I
that
think
will
too.
do dark things and make life
We're
difficult for Dumbledore.
We're sure that it's the Chamber of Secrets, though?
That's what
Yeah,
I
I
think.
think so.
We already had this argument. So
We
I'll
did.
let Molly and
Yeah, well,
Elizabeth
yeah.
argue.
Like I said, we've talked about this on the podcast.
I'm just picturing Lucius dear diary, today.
I got
My
rated
kid keeps
again.
talking about this Harry Potter person.
How did I raise such an annoying child? When does he go back to school?
Right?
I don't know. It's just interesting to see what that depth of knowledge could be regarding this object, and then your idea about maybe he did write something in it. Doesn't even matter, a date or whatever, and it just came back at him, and he's like,
Which I feel like he
Weird.
would really
Yeah.
want to use after Voldemort disappeared. And okay, my master is gone. I've got
Right.
this part of him communicating with me. He can give me ideas.
This
on
makes
how
me
to-
wonder,
Yeah.
I think maybe it's just, like you said, magic leaves a trace. I wonder if it's just so innocent looking that even Lucius doesn't think, probably it's that's just his diary. I don't know.
well, that's my take. Is I don't think Lucius is competent enough to really pick up on just how powerful or how dark this might be.
Yeah. I will say, I remember before the 7th book came out, and J.K. Rowling put out a little hint that this book was really important for the 7th. I remember combing through the book, being like, okay, what is it that's going to be so important? And it's this diary, all the Horcruxes.
So I want to go back to something that Elizabeth brought up about Percy and the potential Tom Riddle going back and forth. So I'm just throwing this out there as something I picked up in this chapter of Percy being hidden away in his room, writing, being left away from the family and being kind of separated and almost alienating his family.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And reading the book that you mentioned in the last episode, How Do Prefects Gain Power, Powerful Prefects, or whatever the book was. Are there...
Prefects who gain power.
I was in the book.
No one has bought the book, so...
I wish the listeners could see Anna's face. I feel like she's just I'm gearing up here.
all the sass
Yeah.
is coming my way. expected this.
Just like,
But no, I'm
love
just
it.
bringing up the idea that Percy alienating himself from his family in pursuit of power, does that bring any recollection or any whisper or ghost or shadow of what we know of Dumbledore and his alienation of his family and in his pursuit of power when he was around the same age?
I think that's an interesting take that I've never
yeah.
really connected before.
Anna, you know you want to respond. I know you're patiently waiting. Come on.
I will give this to you about Percy in future books. Like, it's actually a really poignant comparison, like, almost just to a T.
Oh, I think I'm having
But
a
not
heart
in
attack.
this book, Dad. Like, literally, he is a little 16-year-old boy writing his girlfriend. He is not there yet. Like, he's not trying to alienate his
How
family
prefects
yet.
gain
He's
power.
not- Oh, come on.
Maybe the book
That's
gave
just...
him the knowledge of.
He's clearly gunning for positions
No,
of
Ron
power. This
says
is where it
right
begins.
here that he wants to be a minister for magic someday. Like, there's a difference between, like, Percy having, like, a plan for his future and Percy alienating his family. He eventually alienates his family for sure. I don't think
Well, this
he's
is the
there
second
yet.
book, Anna. We're the second book.
Okay,
I
well,
think
that's
right
what
now
I'm saying.
he's kind of like, I have a girlfriend
Yeah,
and
you're
I
making
can
it
talk to
sound
her and
like
I
he's-
don't get made fun of the way I do with all my
Well,
other brothers.
You're making it sound like he's, like,
Dumbledore
locked
had
up
a
in his room
boyfriend,
plotting
yes.
power
Did he
Yeah.
not have a significant other during this time?
Well, after he had graduated. Like, we're talking about Percy years down the road having this comparison.
This is the beginnings of it, though. That's my
Yeah.
point. You see some of the parallels. I'm not saying he's as ambitious or as talented or has the goals
I
that
think
Dumbledore
I
has.
don't think-
Dumbledore at that time was getting praise from very worldly people, whereas Percy right now is just getting praise from.
I think
Well,
it starts when he starts
his
working
mom.
with Crouch. When he starts working with Barty Crouch Sr., that's when I will give you he's plotting his separation from his family. I don't think it's
I'm not saying
yet.
he's plotting to be like, screw them all, I'm out. But clearly he's separated from them. He's not. He's only showing up for meals. That's the only thing he's there for.
He's got a girlfriend.
Yeah, I would say you could argue how much of it is because of romance versus ambition.
I don't know. He's always flaunting the
Percentages.
prefect badge, and he's always flaunting.
Yeah, why is he always wearing that around? It's
On
summertime.
his sweater vest. Why is he wearing a
Yeah.
sweater vest in summer?
Clearly
Maybe
evil?
it's
No.
just like I can see this is the only way to annoy Fred and George, just to get back at them, but they're not faced by
I don't know. I'm just saying. It's just something I picked up in this chapter. I'm just like, huh.
No, that's interesting. I've never thought that
Yeah.
comparison before.
It's a very interesting parallel. I think for me it's hard because it's like Percy's smart, he's goal oriented for sure, he's a good kid. But I think the thing that stops me, and I don't know, maybe this makes me a terrible person, I don't know. But like he's not as talented as Dumbledore,
No,
so
yeah,
it's
of
not
course.
like my first reaction, my first knee-jerk
I
reaction.
almost wonder if it's Percy's way of thinking about how to make money.
Yes.
Because I mean, Fred and George, it was mentioned in this chapter how they're, explosions in their room. So they're
Yeah.
developing their joke shop. They're already thinking about money too. And Percy doesn't necessarily have that talent, but if he could become Minister of Magic, and
That's to
Kind of
Percy's
set
plan in Ministry of Magic. He's planning how to get himself in a respectable job
Yeah.
career.
Mhm.
a good
Dumbledore
department.
was plotting
World domination.
big difference.
But also, like, Dumbledore eventually goes, I can't be the Minister of Magic because I know what power does to me.
After his sister died.
Which
Yes.
Percy doesn't realize what
Until
power
after-
does to him.
well,
No, he figures,
He figures
it out before
before,
anybody dies.
But it's also around the same, give or take, hours around Fred dying.
I feel like it's a difference between somebody wanting to become an absolute dictator as opposed to just being a politician that
Yeah.
wants things
Sure.
to,
Well, yeah. Their goals were different
Very
ultimately,
different.
yes.
Going back to what you said a second ago, though, I don't think he realized it right before the death. I think it's
Well, no,
been
he came
like,
in before.
yeah, but like he said he'd been wanting to for a while. It was just hard because he's working in the ministry and they know the relationship between the Weasleys and Dumbledore and in general Voldemort and their thoughts on him. So I think it was kind of like this is the only time I can come and say,
Obviously, I'm not
sorry.
saying they're the same person. Obviously,
No,
they're
you're
not.
just drawing
I'm just drawing
parallels
comparisons
to
to some of their story arcs and being
And
like
this is
similar.
when Dan backtracks.
This is not me backtracking. This is me firming my point. Thank you very much. Whatever, I'm right. Whatever, it's fine. Get out of here with this.
Terrible.
Backtracking. Double and tripling down.
I think you're looking too much into this, Dan.
You know what this is? Y'all know I'm right. Y'all know I'm right. Anyway, all right.
Listeners, tell us who you agree with.
Me. Anyway, what else we got on the spoilers for this week?
Lucius did say how there's some things at home that would embarrass him, and we know he's talking about that room, I guess you'd call it. That's
The
under
dungeon?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where all his secret stuff is hiding, which, Bergen is like, yeah, I know you've got more at home. Like, we've seen that room. We've been in that room with
Probably a
them.
prisoner down there now that you're holding captive, yeah.
Toby's out there.
Poor baby.
Yeah, there's a lot with Lucius in this one. He becomes quite the antagonist.
Yeah.
It's also kind of fun to read this Lucius versus the Lucius we know he becomes.
Yeah.
With just the shell of himself. He is still strutting around.
He does have quite the story arc, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he does. He does. Does anybody remember in Cursed Child, did we find out what happened to him?
Never read Cursed Child.
I've read it once,
I
but I
didn't
did
want
not
to.
reread it.
I heard
I
it's
know.
bad, but I was like, I'm just not going to.
I started it, and then it was the trolley lady that I was like, I don't.
The demonic trolley
yeah,
lady,
I
yes.
was like, I can't get past it.
Kind of stop.
Sounds like I made a choice.
Was it 190 years, we learned? It was like
That
190.
sounds right, yeah.
190 years that lady's been on the trolley.
Yeah. Maybe I would go that way too.
Anybody steps off, just murder them, like Scottish countryside. Oh, what else did we have? This book, I think, it picks up a lot quicker than book one. Obviously, we get a lot into the action quicker, and then it really never slows down.
How quickly do you think Ginny started writing in her diary? Like that
I would
night,
imagine
or-
right away.
I would imagine quickly, yeah. Yeah.
Can you imagine how much of it is about Harry?
So much. I'm in my room and he's right downstairs. Aww.
It's bringing back such horrible flashbacks, when you were that age, the things you wrote in your little diary, oh god.
So then flip it. What do you think the soul of Tom Riddle is thinking? Eye rolls, or just
She
how
told
can I
me
manipulate
how
this
she
right off the
put
bat?
her elbow in the butter. How would
He's-
I respond?
He's probably so sick of it by the end, but in the beginning he's like, yes, I got an idiot girl. Which is not at all Ginny Weasley, but
Yeah.
that would be what he
Easily
was getting from
manipulated.
her.
Very, very easily manipulated.
It's so weird to see Ginny in this because when I think of Ginny, I just think of
Powerhouse.
Independent woman.
yeah, you know.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think it is underrated just how great some of these story arcs really are
Yeah.
from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And not just the main trio, because everybody loves to focus on the main trio, but these story arcs are really good.
Yeah.
And these side characters, which is a testament to her writing.
Yeah, there are very few characters that are flat. They're all very
Yeah.
well rounded.
Good stuff. All right. If no one has anything else, we'll wrap this one up.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was cool having everybody on, even though I got the most flack thrown at me. That's okay. Still think I'm right. That's all right. Hope everybody listening to this enjoyed. And please let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on Twitter. And Anna's doing a great job helping me out with the Instagram, which I much appreciate. And Elizabeth will hopefully be helping out with the Twitter soon. So yeah, we're trying to stay engaged. So please engage with us. Obviously, Anna's usually pretty present in the comments on Twitter. So if you want to agree with her and attack me, that's where you go for that. Yeah. So thanks for listening.
Always attack Dan. That's my message for the listeners.
That's fine. I can handle it, and I'll come right back. It's all good. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.